Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to create the case for in-housing a marketing mix model. We're going to share everything that we believe it takes in order to internalize in-housing the research and development of marketing mix model for any brand. Before we start, I'm Gabriel Franco, CEO and co-founder of Cassandra. We are the marketing measurement platform that helps more than 100 brands globally to allocate and measure $500 million in advertising investments every year. Today, we want to share how to internalize this process. The process that you see in the screen is the entire process for any marketing mix model that is ever built. We start from scoping, then we try to do data ingestions and collect the data. We need to always validate the data before we actually start building the model, and then we build the model. From the model build, we need to assess if the results are actually right and start doing experiments and calibration in order to optimize the marketing mix model over time. Once we've optimized the model over time, we start with the Badger scenario planner and simulate different scenario to understand whether it exists a marketing mix that is more efficient than what we currently have. Once we have that, we put the MMM in production and we start using it at a monthly basis in order to allocate our marketing budget. The key of this process is understanding that we become an investment firm, and any investment firm needs to optimize for two main KPIs: risk and reward. Reward is kind of easy. We need to maximize revenue or number of conversions or number of customers from our advertising investments. But on the other side, we have risk. And risk is something that no one talks enough about. Any marketing mix model is going to have a specific level of uncertainty that can be calibrated, but it's never zero. So today we're going to dive into a lot how to assess the uncertainty of a model and how to translate it into risk assessment when we need to do any budget shifts in our marketing mix. In order to optimize for risk and reward and get to that value, what are the rules and what are the steps that we need to take? The first step that we need to take is scoping. We need to understand and actually start planning with data scientists and marketing teams to work on the marketing mix modeling project. The important thing about this part is to align everyone to be truth-seeking at all costs. Any politics or any human bias cannot be accepted in this project because it's going to compromise the result. And this is crucial. The best clients that work with us and get the best result because they are truth-seeking at all costs. The second step should be data ingestion, which is you're going to allocate a data engineer in order to create ETL pipelines that collect data from any advertising platform and any data source that you have to centralize this data into a data warehouse like BigQuery. Once you've done this, we need to validate if that data is actually consistent and is validated, corresponds to reality. This step is specifically crucial because if you train a model with bad data, they're going to yield negative results for your brand. It's better to have no model than a bad model trained on bad data. After we validate the data, then we start building a model. We need to have data scientists in order to do that. So let's imagine a data scientist allocated full-time in R&D to build the framework for your model. Then you need to validate and actually assess whether the estimation that the marketing mix model generates have low uncertainty, are stable over time, and actually make sense in the real world. Then you need to have another data scientist that actually has expertise in causal inference in order to run experiments that will allow us to calibrate the marketing mix model over time and reduce the uncertainty in the estimation of the MMM that we've done in the beginning. Once we have estimated the marketing mix model, run calibration over time, and reduce the uncertainty of the marketing mix model, we can then start using the Badger scenario planner. And a Badger scenario planner needs to be a Badger scenario planner that allows us to distribute the marketing budget to maximize the amount of sale, new customers, or number of conversions that we want versus the risk of moving budget from one allocation to another. After we've done this, we need to put the marketing mix model in production. In order to do that, you will need a full stack engineer that understands architecture, cloud infrastructures, and they can automatically be fed from the data that you input from BigQuery. After you do that, you will need marketers that read the data consistently every month and reallocate and redistribute the marketing budget with the evidence seen from the marketing mix model. And there is the value created. What if you want to do only some parts of it and delegate the most expensive? From our experience, this process can be divided in two parts. There are two fairly cheap parts that can be internalized, which is scoping. It's extremely important that the culture of truth-seeking at all costs comes from the brand itself and the marketing teams are aligned on this type of culture. And budget reallocation. It's a marketer job to get the suggestions of how to reallocate the marketing budget and actually implement it. But in the meantime, data ingestions, data validation, model build, model validation, budget scenario planner, and having a marketing mix model in production can be delegated through a third party. Any third party that has an extensive R&D team that constantly studies not only the results of any client that is being developed on their platform, on their system, but also continuous research and development on the behalf of their clients in order to improve any decision that any marketer makes over time based on this insight. On top of that, if you say, maybe I don't believe that these parts are really costly, you need to consider the following parts in order to make good decisions about internalizing the MMM or any incrementality measurements within your own stack. The first one is you're going to have a small number of employees that are going to be essential for this project. So if you have any turnover on these key employees, you're going to lose a lot of knowledge. On top of that, you're going to have tech stack dependencies. Tech stack dependencies need to be managed over time. It's not a one-off project. You need to continually allocate capital into the resources required in order to keep the tech stack up to date. On top of that, you're going to have a requirement for knowledge to maintain the entire infrastructure. While there are external vendors that continue doing R&D to improve the models, to improve the assessment, and reduce the risk, you will need to do that too internally. So you will need to create a small team of really smart data scientists that continue improving the models and the decisions that your marketers make on top of these models over time. And in the end is revenue opportunity loss. Let's say it takes you 1 year in order to build a model. And this is a conservative estimation, by the way. For this 1 year, you're not going to be optimizing your marketing mix. And this is a huge loss. We started now with a third party. The time to value is going to be way shorter than it would be if you built it internally.
Hi, I'm Nicholas. I'm Director of Operations and Partnerships, and I want to take you now through 3 myths that Gabriele and myself thought about a lot when talking to clients, and that we wanted to debunk really quickly. So let's get the first one. In-housing is cheaper. In-housing MMM protects my data. And the last one will be MMM once built, it's done. In-housing MMM is better for my data. In short, in-housing MMM gives you, of course, more control over your data. However, you should challenge third parties with the following 3 key elements: enterprise level security, data protections, and data ownership that you should retain, you as a brand or client, over time when working with a third party. What that means? It means that you need to look out for end-to-end encryptions for the data in transit or while staying at the third party. You need to own your data. You need to have monitoring and compliance across all of the data sets that you share with the third party. You need to remain full owner of the data, and you need to think about framework like the SOC 2 Type 2 security that helps you ensure the data is up to par to an enterprise level of security. In-housing is cheaper, which is the second myth that we wanted to talk about. In the short term, it's very unlikely that you're going to in-house in a cheaper way than dealing with third party like Cassandra. And I think Gabriele was pretty clear about all the current cost and hidden cost that an MMM can create when you're in-house. What's actually really hard to establish, and we actually struggle, is the long-term impact or the long-term cost benefit of in-housing MMM. It's a hard calculations because costs compound over time, but also because you take into account the efficiency gain from reallocating budget thanks to a good, well-calibrated and rigorous MMM. Last but not least, MMM once built, it's done. This is the third myth that we wanted to debunk. And I think Gabriele was pretty clear. Any MMM built on top of an open source package like Robyn, Meridian, or Py-MC are constantly evolving. The principle of open source is that it is power and help and enhanced by a community of contributors. And that community of contributors makes it really, really difficult to consider an MMM built on those open source packages a once a thing. So make sure that you keep maintaining your MMM and make sure that you harvest the innovations that is driven by the community around every single of those packages. Once again, thank you for your time. And here is a quick QR code to scan to get access to more resources that we are happy to share here with Cassandra. Thank you so much.